This is Francisco Chico Lo, a prodigy from Brazil who became one of the most explosive stars in professional Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. With an aggressive, fan-pleasing style and a room full of gold medals, he was on a fast track to becoming a legend of the sport. Then, in June of 2025, at the absolute peak of his powers, it all came crashing down. The United States Anti-Doping Agency, USADA, announced that Lo had tested positive for a cocktail of powerful anabolic steroids. The punishment was swift, a 3-year ban from competition. His greatest victory, a gold medal at the prestigious Pan IBJJF Championship, was stripped away. His name was now just another entry on the sport's growing list of titans who had fallen from grace. 3 years? For an athlete in their prime, that can be a career death sentence. But what if the punishment isn't what it seems? What if the sentence, while sounding severe, was really just smoke and mirrors? Because just days after his ban was announced, Francisco Lo was still on the schedule to compete for a championship title and a massive cash prize. This wasn't some secret comeback. It was all set to be broadcast for the world to see. How is that possible? How can an athlete get hit with a multi-year doping ban, only to potentially carry on as if nothing happened? This is the shocking story of a punishment that might not be a punishment at all. It's a look into a system riddled with loopholes, a culture of silence, and a question that cuts to the very heart of professional grappling. Does the punishment truly fit the crime? To understand how we got here, we have to go back. To really get the magnitude of the fall, you first have to appreciate the meteoric rise. Hailing from Brazil, Francisco de Assis Lemos Lo's story is a familiar one. Like a lot of kids, his first love was football, but he quickly realized his real talents were on the mat. The story goes that after getting bullied around age 11, he decided he needed to learn how to defend himself. He walked into a jiu-jitsu academy. That single decision changed his life forever. His first instructor, Karen Diaz, guided him from white to blue belt. And it was obvious even then that he wasn't just another kid. He had a natural feel for the art, a tenacity you just can't teach. As he tore through the juvenile ranks, his focus sharpened. Jiu-jitsu went from self-defense to a passion and then a profession. At 18, he made the move that countless aspiring Brazilian champions have made before him. He left home for São Paulo, the buzzing epicenter of competitive jiu-jitsu. He landed a coveted spot at the Cicero Costa Fight House, basically a grappling scholarship to a world-famous talent factory. This was the big leagues. He wasn't just training anymore. He was living and breathing jiu-jitsu 24/7, surrounded by a shark tank of other hungry, elite competitors who pushed him to his absolute limits. Under Cicero Costa's guidance, Chico blossomed. His game became a terrifying mix of speed, pressure, and relentless submission hunting. He was a guard-passing machine who always put on a show. He climbed the ranks, and on May 16, 2022, he was promoted to black belt. For any practitioner, the black belt is the dream. It's a symbol of mastery. But for a competitor like Chico Lo, it was just the starting line. Now, on the world's biggest stages, his star began to rise at an incredible pace. He made a splash in 2022 with huge wins at the São Paulo Open and the IBJJF Pan No-Gi Championships. He moved to the United States, joining the star-studded Checkmat team, one of the most dominant teams in the sport's history. This put him in the same room as legends and world champions, making him even sharper. His list of titles grew fast. He became a multi-time American national champion, took silver at the 2024 IBJJF World Championships, and won the 2023 Pan No-Gi Championship. He wasn't just a rising star anymore. He was a top contender in the stacked medium heavyweight division. He was an MVP for his team in their run to qualify for the lucrative IGA Champions League, winning all 3 of his matches by submission. By early 2025, Francisco Lo was one of the most exciting athletes of his generation. The stage was set for his biggest moment yet, the Pan IBJJF Jiu-Jitsu Championship. The Pans are one of the sport's 4 Grand Slams. Winning gold here is a career-defining moment, and on March 23, 2025, Francisco Lo did it. He battled through a division of killers and stood on top of the podium, a gold medal around his neck. It was his first major IBJJF gi title as a black belt, a huge milestone that cemented his place among the elite. He had reached the summit. But little did he know the view from the top was about to become a long, hard fall, and it would all start with a routine sample collection in a plastic cup. The 2025 Pan IBJJF Jiu-Jitsu Championship was a big deal. For the first time, the event brought in the United States Anti-Doping Agency for rigorous drug testing. This was a major move for the IBJJF, the sport's largest federation, signaling a serious, if long overdue, attempt to clean up a sport plagued by rumors of performance-enhancing drug use. For the athletes, this meant that on top of the pressure to win, they now faced the scrutiny of one of the world's toughest anti-doping bodies. After winning his gold medal, Francisco Lo was one of the champions selected for a test. Weeks went by, the jiu-jitsu world moved on, but behind the scenes a storm was brewing. On June 23, 2025, USADA dropped the bombshell. Francisco Lo had accepted a 3-year ban for an anti-doping violation. His sample, collected on the day of his greatest achievement, had tested positive for not one but 2 prohibited substances. So what exactly did they find? The USADA report listed a cocktail of potent anabolic steroids. These aren't supplements you can accidentally pick up at a health food store. These are serious drugs. The first was a metabolite of dihydrochloromethyltestosterone, better known as DHCMT. If that name rings a bell, it should. Its brand name is Turinabol, the signature steroid of the infamous East German state-sponsored doping machine of the 70s and 80s. It's known for building muscle and strength without some of the obvious side effects, making it a historic favorite for athletes looking to cheat the system. The second was 19-norandrosterone, a metabolite of nandrolone. Nandrolone is another one of the most famous and widely used steroids in history. It's an injectable prized for its ability to build muscle, boost strength, and help with recovery and joint pain. The combination of these two is a powerful, deliberate stack designed to build a bigger, stronger, more durable athlete. Now, in the world of anti-doping, athletes often have excuses. Tainted supplements, accidental ingestion, a freak of biology. But not here, not with this. USADA used a specialized test called isotope ratio mass spectrometry, or IRMS. Put simply, IRMS is the gold standard for catching cheaters. It's like a molecular fingerprint scanner. It can tell the difference between steroids your body makes naturally and those synthesized in a lab. The IRMS test results for Lo's sample were, in USADA's own words, unequivocal. They confirmed the drugs in his system were synthetic. There was no gray area, no room for excuses. The science was definitive. He was caught red-handed by the most advanced testing out there. Faced with irrefutable evidence, Lo was staring down a standard 4-year ban. But there's a clause in the Anti-Doping Code, Article 10.8.1, that offers a 1-year reduction if an athlete admits everything and accepts the sanction quickly. Francisco Lo took the deal. He admitted fault, accepted the consequences, and his 4-year ban was cut to 3. His suspension was backdated to April 28, 2025. He wouldn't be eligible to compete in IBJJF events again until April 2028, and his Pan American gold medal, the crowning achievement of his career, was stripped and set to be awarded to the silver medalist, Matthias Luna. To many, this looked like justice. A star cheated, got caught by a sophisticated test, admitted it, and received a lengthy ban. Case closed. But the case wasn't closed. In fact, the most shocking part of the story was just getting started. Before we get into the wild reality of Lo's punishment, if you appreciate this kind of deep dive into the sports we love, make sure you subscribe and ring that notification bell. We break down the biggest stories in combat sports, and your support helps us keep going. All right, a 3-year ban, it sounds devastating. 3 years away from your peak, watching rivals pass you by. In most major sports, the Olympics, the UFC, pro cycling, a USADA ban is a global stop sign. It means you cannot compete anywhere, period. But Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu isn't like most sports. The central shocking truth here is that Francisco Lo's 3-year ban wasn't from the sport of Jiu-Jitsu. It was a ban from events run by just one organization, the International Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Federation. To get why that matters, you have to understand the chaotic, fragmented landscape of professional grappling. It's not like football with the NFL or basketball with the NBA. Pro Jiu-Jitsu is the Wild West, a collection of independent, privately owned promotions. The IBJJF is the biggest and oldest of them, especially for the traditional gi competitions. They run the World Championships in the pans, and to their credit, they've started using USADA to legitimize their events. But here's the kicker. The IBJJF is a private company that chooses to use USADA. It isn't a required signatory to the World Anti-Doping Code. And there are plenty of other major players out there. There's the ADCC, whose World Championship is like the Olympics of grappling. There are huge promotions like One Championship. And there are new, cash-rich organizations like IGA, which puts on team events with million-dollar prizes. These promotions are all separate businesses. They have their own rules, their own goals, and most importantly, their own anti-doping policies or lack thereof. They are under no obligation to honor a suspension handed down by USADA on behalf of the IBJJF, and that is the loophole. A gaping chasm in the sport's integrity that Francisco Lo could just walk right through. While the ink was still drying on the press releases announcing his 3-year IBJJF ban, Lo's schedule outside of that one organization looked shockingly busy. In the days following the news, he was still listed as a key athlete for the Checkmat team in the upcoming IGA Champions League final, an event with $1 million prize pool. Not long after, he was booked for a super fight against another top grappler, Isaac Michel, at a one-fight night event. For the clean athletes, for the fans who want to believe in the sport, and for Matthias Luna, who only got his gold medal after the fact, this felt like a slap in the face. What's the point of a 3-year ban if the athlete can just turn around and compete for huge paydays at other prestigious events? This isn't a problem unique to Lo, but his case is the most glaring example of this systemic failure. An athlete can, in theory, be banned for life by the IBJJF and still have a long and lucrative career competing everywhere else. So the ban transforms from a career-ending punishment into a strategic problem. It means Lo can't compete for an IBJJF world title for 3 years. That hurts his legacy in the traditional guy scene for sure, but it doesn't stop him from earning a living. It doesn't stop him from competing. So while the headlines screamed, Francisco Lo handed 3-year IBJJF suspension after PED violation, the reality was far more complicated. The punishment was real, but its reach was incredibly short. It showed that the idea of a united front against doping in jiu-jitsu is, right now, a fantasy. The Francisco Lo case isn't just about one guy. It pulls back the curtain on a bigger, more troubling issue that's been festering in jiu-jitsu for years. This is about a sport struggling with its own identity as it grows from a niche martial art into a real professional sport. As the money in jiu-jitsu has gotten bigger, so has the pressure to win. A decade ago, a world title got you bragging rights. Today, it can lead to 6- or 7-figure incomes. With stakes that high, the incentive to find an edge, any edge, has skyrocketed. Jiu-jitsu has always had a complicated relationship with PEDs. For years, it was an open secret, something everyone whispered about but nobody said out loud. The general attitude was often, what other people do is their business, and besides, everyone's doing it anyway. The IBJJF bringing in USADA was supposed to be a culture shock. It was a statement that, at least in the sport's biggest federation, cheating wouldn't be tolerated. But as we've seen, the enforcement only works in the IBJJF's backyard. This creates a twisted incentive. An athlete could look at the landscape and make a calculated risk. They could use PEDs to win a major IBJJF title, knowing that even if they get caught and banned, that championship title, before it's stripped, can be a golden ticket to a career in promotions that don't test or don't care about USADA bans. The ban becomes just a cost of doing business. This fractures the sport into 2 parallel universes: the tested world of the IBJJF and the largely untested Wild West of everywhere else. It undermines everyone's achievements. When a champion wins a major title in a non-testing promotion, the first question on everyone's mind is, are they clean? It casts a permanent shadow of doubt and it puts clean athletes in an impossible spot. Do you stay clean and compete in the IBJJF, knowing you might be at a disadvantage? Or do you compete in the untested leagues where you might be facing an even playing field, but a chemically enhanced one? The Francisco Losaga is a perfect storm of all these problems. He's a hardworking, talented athlete who also chose to cheat. He's an athlete who received a major punishment that somehow carries very little weight. This is a crossroads moment for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. The only real path forward would require a level of cooperation the sport has never seen. For a true anti-doping system to work, all the major players would have to come together. They'd need to agree on a single policy and, crucially, agree to honor each other's bans. A ban from one would have to mean a ban from all. Until that day comes, we're stuck in this cycle. We'll see more champions rise, more champions fall, and more arguments about whether the punishments are anything more than just for show. Is a partial ban a real deterrent? Or is it just a business expense for athletes willing to roll the dice? Does the case of Francisco Lo prove that in the wild west of jiu-jitsu, you can cheat, get caught, and still come out on top? Let me know what you think in the comments below.